Hey there, YouTube. So I needed to sharpen a chainsaw chain here, and I thought I'd make a video of it. I've already pulled the chain off of the saw, and what we're going to be using today, I got this little Chicago Electric Power Tools sharpener that I picked up at Harbor Freight for about 30 bucks, and I just wanted to go through real quick on how to sharpen one of these chains up. Um, I'm not going to say I'm a pro by any means. I've just started with our little piece of property out in West Virginia. I've used chainsaws in the past, but this is probably the most I've used them, in a few years. So I just wanted to show you what I do when I sharpen these chains. It's pretty straightforward. There's not really too much difficulty to it. If I have more time in the future, I'll try and throw a video up of how to do it by hand as well. But today we're going to use the electric sharpener. So yeah, first thing you do, pull it from your saw. Then we're going to throw it into the chain guide here on the sharpener. And before we turn anything on, before we start sharpening, we're going to check a few things with the setup of the sharpener itself. With this being a 16-inch bar and a relatively low power saw, we're going to sharpen the chain at about 25 degrees, which is there's this little gauge down here and a knob to loosen that up underneath that allows you to rotate it. So we're going to start at 25 degrees. That allows us to take what it does is it makes the angle of the cut on the chain not quite as steep as you would if you were using a higher horsepower saw. That way you're taking a little bit smaller chip, and it also prolongs the sharpness of the chain, going with a just a lower angle on that. So first thing we do, we set that. Next thing we will do is we'll get the chain pointing in the right direction. That would be what comes first. Alright. So now that we've got the chain pointing in the right direction, this little guy here, this is going to be your stop. So each time a link goes by, you're gonna do every other link because they're on either side of the chain and they're at opposing angles. So you need to skip a link every time you sharpen, and then what we'll do is we'll swing this way and then sharpen the other links. So what we'll do, we'll get the first one in, or anyone. It really doesn't matter where you start, but it is important when you start. I usually color the first link that I sharpen with a Sharpie or any marker, something that you can just tell where you started. That way you're not sharpening too much, you're not wearing down your cutting teeth too much by sharpening them too much. So first thing we do, mark the first one. Then what we'll do is we'll bring the saw down without it running, while holding the brake here on top. Not the brake, it's more of a clamp. It just keeps the chain from moving when you're not cutting but sharpening. And we'll bring it down, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see this on camera. I'll try and get it on the second camera. But you want to check your depth and make sure that you're not cutting down into the chain itself, that you're only going to be cutting the tooth. I don't think I really have to mention why you don't want to be cutting the chain yourself, but it could be dangerous. You put any sort of wear on that, and you hit a little snag in a log, and it could rip the whole chain off and cause injury or cause damage to the saw. So you want to make sure you're not cutting into that. So we'll hold that clamp, we'll bring this down, and then on the back of the saw there's this little dial here. This is where you can set your depth. Now again, I'm not sure how well I can get this on camera, but I'm going to set the depth so that it's just above the chain itself. And then also you have this dial over here. What that's going to do is it's going to adjust where the chain is sitting on the guide rails, because the sharpening disc itself is fixed. So what you need to do is you need to adjust it so that you're actually getting some of that material from the tooth into the disc itself. And we can hear it's mildly scraping, which means we're against that. So at this point, going to start sharpening. I don't think I need to mention you probably want to put on some safety glasses. Hearing protection probably isn't necessary. It's not a very loud process, but I would recommend safety glasses. I have mine on already, so I'm ready to go. Safety squints, I don't know if I'd go with on this. Definitely wear some glasses. All right, here we go. And I'll mention before I start, I might make some adjustments as we go, because I just very quickly tried to set that up for the camera. But as we go, as I see I need to make some adjustments, I'll do so. And then we'll switch everything around. We'll do the other side of the chain. And like I said, skip a link, go to the next one, clamp it down. See where this one, there we go. Just make sure it's sitting against that guide correctly. See in there I skipped one. But you just lift this little guy up here and go back. You can pick up any that you miss. And I'm pretty sure that was because we have the this green link here, which I'm pretty sure is the center link, and you can see there's a wider gap there between the teeth. Now we're back to our blue link. So at this point what we're going to do, we're just going to rotate this base to 25 degrees on the other side. And what we'll do, we'll go past that blue link right there to the next, and then since we were skipping every other, if we just go past it to the next tooth, that will then be our all our teeth running in the opposite direction. So what I'll do, again, we'll adjust for the shift this way. Just because we rotated this, I always like to just make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And again, like I said, if I need to, I'll make adjustments during the cut, but I think we should be alright. Here we go. See, that might be a little deep, so I'll turn the back dial a little bit. Seems better. On our property out in West Virginia, I found that most of the wood out there is chestnut oak, which has proven to be very hard. And I've been wearing out chains a little faster than I have in the past. So I think we might have to upgrade to well, and I have another saw that has an 18-inch bar, but it's still relatively low power, and it still struggles a little bit with the hardness of that oak. So we might have to get something with a quite a bit larger motor to it, and then we can be a little bit more aggressive with the grind on the teeth, so I'm not struggling quite so much to cut some of that wood. Alright, this is the last one, because we're back to our blue. So with that, we should be sharp. What I'll do, I'll throw this back on the saw real quick, and we'll go outside, we'll find a log, and we'll just make sure things cut nicely. Now, one thing to mention, if you, let's say you would forget to flip it and sharpen the other side, and this is also something, it'll tell you if there's something wrong with your saw as well. If you're cutting and your saw won't make a straight 90-degree cut as you hold it, you know, the saw wants to curve one way or the other. That's just one side of these teeth on one side of this chain are getting, or are dull, and it'll cause the saw just to not want to cut straight. So that's one indication that either you forgot, or maybe you got into something in the log that only affected one side of the chain. And at that point, you should stop using the saw, because it's unsafe to cut anymore if you can't reliably cut or reliably make a straight cut. So at this point, I'm gonna throw the chain back in the saw. We'll go outside. We'll see if it's cutting. I just wanted to mention real quick, if you like what you see, please subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment, especially leave me a comment if you disagree with what I'm doing, if I'm doing something wrong. I am not above education. I understand that I learn something every day. I am not an expert. I call myself, you know, master of none. I'm pretty good at a lot of things, but not a master at anything. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, any criticisms, just leave it down there in the comments. And thanks for watching. All right, let's give this all a quick test. Some gloves on. Let it warm up. Cutting great. There we go.